This is KNEB.TV Ag News from the Western Hearing Clinic Ag Desk. Western Hearing Clinic, the Panhandle's choice for better hearing, helping you hear what matters most.
From a territory to a state, Nebraska is celebrating its 150th birthday this year, and KNEB Ag will be looking back throughout the year at the farmers, ranchers, technology, and more, which grew the Panhandle of Nebraska to what it is today. Some people may not know it, but 60 to 70 years ago, potatoes were a big crop in the Panhandle. Jack Nielsen, owner of Diamond Hill Farms and at one time a big potato farmer, explained why potatoes did so well.
The climate primarily, it was dry and relatively disease-free. Of course, the other major component was table stock. Potatoes were at that point in Bixby County a very large component. It's hard to imagine any farmstead around here that doesn't have the remains or location of an old potato cellar.
His family moved to the Alliance area in 1913. His granddad, John Nielsen, farmed north of town. They started growing potatoes in 1915 as they were a common crop in America. Nielsen talked about harvesting potatoes in the early years.
In the old days, everything was hand labor. They had one row of potato diggers that were pulled by horses, the very early days of loading them on wagons in sacks and putting them in storage. First few years, our family grew potatoes. They didn't have a cellar, so they covered them in kind of trenches and covered them with straw. But then the old potato cellars were built, the underground cellars, and Bixby County, western Nebraska, was among the last areas in the nation to mechanize. We still had hand harvest 1961. It just took a tremendous number of people, and we converted over to mechanical harvest. And now, everything is done mechanically with harvesters, self-unloading trucks and bend pilers and that type of thing.
The potato industry matured in the 1940s and split into two camps, according to Nielsen.
The industry was largely table stock or seed. Well, the seed component had always been part of it. Somebody grew potatoes for seed and sold them to the neighbors. Their certification agency, and initially controlled diseases by roguing, walking through and chopping out diseased plants. But the industry is consolidated.
Nielsen said, like most crops, potatoes are now raised by a few people with large acreages. He said the potato moved to Idaho and Washington and along the northern part of the U.S., where the climate is more accommodating. Plus, he added, Americans don't eat as many potatoes today as they did in the early 20th century, where the average American consumed 50 to 60 pounds of potatoes a year, and now we eat just over 5 pounds per person. With KNEB.TV News, I'm Chabela Guzman, and 150 Years in Nebraska Agriculture is sponsored by Kelly Bean, proud to be a tri-state region tradition for 90 years.